Okay, so that was a confirmation. And first of all, I'm not going to read out the whole legal disclaimer and safe harbor statement, but I would like to outline that you are aware that any forward-looking statement that will be mentioned during the session is not of the nature of a commitment. So please be aware of that. And so you have joined a Zoom webinar. This means that not all of you have the rights to speak up. In case of any questions, please raise your hand. You have the function raise hand, and then we can give you permission to speak. And we will also have a short Q&A session at the end so that you have the chance to raise your questions then. And having said that, I'm really happy to give over to our main speakers today, who are Hans Huber and Matthias Betz. Yeah, so many thanks for having you here. And Hans, Matthias, the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you, Leona. And well, just going back here, the presentation for the first part is going to be done by Matthias Betz from IFM Solutions, and myself, Hans Huber from Endres & Hauser Digital Solutions. And so I think I'm going to do the first part of the presentation, and then I will hand over to Matthias, who is going to do the second part of the presentation. So first of all, let me quickly start with the introduction. What is actually the Open Industry 4.0 Alliance, and what is behind that? And basically, the Alliance has been founded a bit more than 2 years ago now by different players who are all active in the automation and industrialization and digitization efforts. So, and we saw as the founders of the Alliance that there is a need to really have a better solution to our customers, which are usually companies producing in the discrete or in the process industry, or which have some kind of logistic challenges to solve. And we thought there must be a better way for these kind of customers than the current approaches that Industry 4.0 had to offer at this point in time. And we will evolve a bit more on these kind of challenges, and then also elaborate why we think that the solution that we found to address these challenges is a good one, and which is really one which is able to grow the market size as well. So on the one hand, if we look from the customer, and the customer in that respect, the operator is someone who's operating a plant or a manufacturing site. So their big topic in Industry 4.0 is that they are faced with a lot of complexity, and they don't really understand often what is really needed and what is the way to go forward. So one of their main concerns, which we also experienced from a lot of conversations that we had with these people, is of course their investment. And so if they invest in something new, they also want to have a certain reliability that their investment is really investment and not a cost. So that the investment is going to produce a return, and that this return is also a kind of, or has at least some kind of life cycle, meaning longevity, that the return will be coming also in a few years. So the safeguard of the investment is one of the main drivers here. Also, all these kind of companies have their existing plants. Mostly no one of them is building a completely new plant. So they have existing technologies. They have a kind of legacy stack which is available and existing in these kind of operations. And so this kind of available part is called often the brownfield. And here we need to have good solutions to integrate into that environment. Of course, every kind of change that you make in your organization needs to create a business impact. And that is the other point, that quite often in the past at least, these Industry 4.0 activities, where they have a lot of value propositions, but often they are a bit unconcrete in terms of what are they really able to deliver in terms of the return. And given that every change requires resources in terms of money and labor time and focus and everything, of course, we need to be able to demonstrate a tangible business impact to these kind of people. Then, of course, in an operations environment, downtime is a cost as well. So the more we can reduce downtime for these kind of changes, the better it is for the customer, of course. And then the last point, I think even that's one of the biggest points here, is the security and data sovereignty. That meaning that, of course, production data is very sensible and sensitive data. And the owner of this plant is not readily willing to share their production data with the whole world, of course. They consider that as their proprietary data. And it contains a lot of intellectual property. Quite often it contains recipes, for example, or exact ways of how to do a production. And so that is a central point, a central pain point that also the Industry 4.0 community has not completely addressed. And so we think that out of this, we have come up with the idea to create this alliance. And then the alliance has founded and formed around Industry 4.0 relevant companies. So all of the companies in the alliance have some form of involvement in the Industry 4.0 game. And of course, one of the main promises and of the main deliverables behind the alliance is the interoperability of solutions and services. And in the end, we are committed to customer value, meaning that we want to drive the customer value forward, and that this is really where we focus on. Then some of you might ask that what is the difference between the Open Industry 4.0 Alliance and these other alliances out there? And there's a lot of associations and organizations in the world, and many of them have some kind of relation to Industry 4.0. And so it's sometimes a bit difficult to understand what exactly is the scope of one of these single organizations. And of course, that's also a question we have to ask ourselves every day, more or less, because we do not want to be a copycat of some other organization. We want to be a distinct organization which delivers a distinct and differentiated customer value. And on the one hand, you typically have these standard bodies, these standard organizations, and they are creating standards. What is a standard? It's a solution, a standardized, a publicly standardized solution to one specific problem. But if you look at the Industry 4.0 landscape, then a single solution to a single problem is usually not an end-to-end solution to a complex kind of manufacturing challenge. So that is the difference between what the standard bodies do and what we do in the Open Industry Alliance. That the standard bodies focus on one very specific topics, and then we in the Open Industry Alliance, we look at the end-to-end process, and we look at what kind of standards we can use, what kind of standard is helpful to us, and what kind of standard is helpful to the customer in the end, of course, to be able to have a solution which is working end-to-end. So here we see ourselves as a kind of implementation alliance, in German sometimes the Umsetzungsallianz genannt, but that is really the focus. And so the alliance is creating out of existing standards and a bit of glue around these kind of standards, a new set of basic architecture and of interoperability guidelines, so that many of these components which are existing in modern manufacturing environments can work together. Then, of course, we have the members of the alliance, because the alliance as such is an organization which is reflecting some interests, but the alliance is not doing concrete projects at the customer side. That is the task and the scope of the members of the alliance. So the members of the Alliance, either as a single company or sometimes together with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 companies in a kind of joint venture specifically for one project, they drive the implementation of Industry 4.0 in the environments of our customers. And the customers, of course, that is the operators of industrial plants and manufacturing sites, they are the users. So they need to be able to benefit from all of that and to create considerable value out of that. Good. So in this regard, I've shown this slide before, but here is a bit of a different aspect as well. So of course, Industry 4.0 is a lot about finding standards and technology and making things work, but also, second, something is moving automatically on my computer. So the question here behind is that we have a user community and an implementation community as well. So it's not only about technology, it's not only about solving very concrete use cases, but it's also that Industry 4.0 lives and really thrives from an environment where the companies work together on behalf of the customer. That is one of the main goals and main aspects of our organization. So we have a mission and a vision, of course, and you can already see from my introduction here that it's really about the collaboration. So work together to deliver customer value. I think that is really the core of what we are doing. Also, we work together in several modes, working modes, and we will show that a bit later in the presentation, what exactly is behind our kind of internal collaboration model. But then also we want to create an ecosystem because many of our members, they serve a particular part in the whole Industry 4.0 chain. And I would say that no single company is able to really deliver everything from end to end. So we, for example, from Endresen+Hauser, we are focused on instrumentation and on measurement devices for the process industry. But then we have also many other members in the Alliance who are, for example, producing valves, and others are producing software, and others are producing other kind of sensoric equipment. And all of that taken together forms the final product at the customer location. So that is really one of the core focus points here. We want to drive the collaboration also of the asset operators, meaning the manufacturers, and of course also the OEMs who produce that equipment. And that is also an important part because here we often see gaps and often there's a lot of competition between that, but it doesn't really have the idea of Industry 4.0. So we think that the idea of Industry 4.0 is bigger than actually the whole competition approach that is traditionally being used, let's say, in Industry 3 environments. And then, of course, if you work together, you need to have a common language, and that common language is then often called semantics. That can be the semantics of our publications, of course, but then also the technical semantics in terms of how do we qualify technical data and with what kind of text do we deliver that data. So those are the most important parts of the vision and mission. Then we come to our members, and we now have more than 80 members in our Alliance, and I can say that it's growing more or less every day. So every time I do this presentation, we have another number here in the headline, and that is also a very good sign. Particularly, you see also that it's a good combination of companies who are more on the hardware side, the equipment side. Others are maybe more on the software side. And then others are more completely integrated in a vertical way and have a very broad portfolio. So that is really the kind of positioning that we have in the Alliance. And what is also important is to understand that this is beyond competition, and it's also pre-competition. I mean, we are not competing in the alliance for concrete projects. That would also be not be allowed in most parts of the world in terms of antitrust topics. But here we are really pre-competition, and we are fostering the growth of the market in general. And rather than being unhappy if someone of, let's say, Endres & Hauser's competitors is joining the alliance, it's quite the opposite. We are actually happy because we see the more relevant companies we have in this organization, the better the organization is going to become, and the more value it's going to delivering to the final customer. So what is the product service mix and portfolio that we have there? Basically, all is around the operator of a plant or the operator of a manufacturing site. And then, of course, we have the members of the alliance, which are mostly in the role of delivering some kind of service or product towards these customers. And so we have a very different roles in our organization. Some companies are also in more than one role, even more than two roles maybe, but some companies are very focused on just one topic. So we have system integrators, we have service providers, connectivity providers, very important topic, because it's one of the key enablers in this whole game. We have OEMs and manufacturers like Endres & Hauser, for example. We have application providers who are then going more into the actual application and the actual benefit for the customer. And then also we have a lot of different kind of technologies involved there. So in this diverse game, we are also targeting a lot of different, let's say, segments. And we, as I said before, we are in the factory automation, but we are also in the plant automation, process automation, in other words, and we are in logistics processes in terms of the warehouses. The focus currently, as you might have seen from the member chart, most of the member companies, or many of the member companies, have their headquarters in Germany, but we are getting more and more international customers, members as well. And that is a good sign because, of course, the game is an international one. And many of our member companies, despite being headquartered maybe in Germany or Switzerland or somewhere, they are themselves global operations. So they have representations in 30 or 40 countries in the world. And so they also have a really, truly global scale. And so we are growing out of Germany and Switzerland to a more European scope, and then we expect a more worldwide coverage as well. But we already, for example, have a company, or have Yokogawa, for example, in our alliance headquartered in Japan. And so we have a very diverse background already. We address operators of manufacturing sites. I said that before, and basically the solution works for small, medium, and large organizations and plants. That is maybe one of the key distinctions. There's not a minimum requirement in terms of size so that it can scale, but it can already be employed in small scenarios. Then, of course, we have a lot of members who are producing companies themselves. For example, in our membership portfolio, we have 28 members have their own factory. So it's not only about the external world, but if I take the example of Endres & Hauser and some others, particularly, for example, the sensor players in the alliance, they are themselves producing companies. They produce this equipment, and sometimes they use their own equipment. Sometimes that is not really appropriate because it doesn't really fit to their production process. But then it is at least we have experts of automation also within our own organization. And that is a key asset, I would say, which we also use and where we are also expanding our project scope. We have at least 10 member organizations who operate warehouses. We have companies who operate showcase areas like marketing-driven showcases, which is typically in a physical location, and which can also show exactly how this can work together. And then we have a lot of IT and service providers as well, because that's an important component. We have people here from the manufacturing execution systems. Also, some of them will talk a bit later. And we also have a lot of other IT-related services in our organization. The key principles are really this one and open. And what do we mean with that? One is really around these points of the topics where we need to have some kind of common approach, where it does not make sense that every company is doing their own stuff, where it's really useful from the viewpoint of the customer that we have a standardized way and that we employ existing standards from the standards organization and employ them in a way that the customer can really get their value out of that. And one of the key points here is the data semantics. If you think about things like the digital twin, which is a kind of enabler for any kind of digitization effort, then it becomes pretty clear that these devices need to talk some kind of language with, which is understandable for the whole ecosystem, basically. Then asset repository, also you need to know what kind of assets you have, what kind of equipment you have in your plant to be able to make any kind of improvements there. Data custodianship, that is, I mentioned it already in the vision mission slide, and a pretty important part. We think that the data which the operator produces in their plant belongs to the operator, and that will not change. But the operator has the possibility to grant access to this data to any kind of external suppliers, for example, when the operator thinks that's a good idea and they get a benefit from it. Of course, security is a similar topic. We need to have one common security architecture so that the security works and that there's not a kind of threat coming from the security, because many of our customers are obviously in security sensitive environments. Also, we have, as you might have seen from the slides of the members, we have very, very small organizations in our alliance, but we also have very big organizations. And so if you join the alliance, you might have the impression that one of the companies is really dominating that or the other. But in reality, that's not the case. Every company who is a member of the alliance has the same options to participate in the alliance and to influence what is coming out of the alliance, and by that also creating their benefit out of the alliance they want to achieve. So every voice is being heard, regardless whether it's a small company or a large one. And then coming to the open approach, we are open basically to all kind of companies. So that I said it before, we are open. We don't judge a new member being a competitor to an existing member. We despite of that, we think it's good if we have many members of one competing area, because then we get a full picture and then we get the best relevance in front of our common customers. So we are open to all manufacturers and operators. We are also open to many different deployment environments, like the hyperscalers that can be on Amazon Web Services or on Azure IoT or something else. We also want to integrate all these software players so that we have the relevant software guys in our alliance. Some more in the manufacturing space, some of them more maybe in the data analysis space, and some of them maybe more in the artificial intelligence space. And all of these players are important in our alliance. We have a rule-based system. As I said, no one is dominant, so that is also creating or governed by some rules behind. Also, of course, we follow antitrust laws around the world, meaning that we do not kind of fix any kind of markets, but we really are pre-competition and want to foster the market as a whole market. And we embrace the standards, meaning we don't create new ones, but we look around what is available and we employ the standards as we need them. So here the summary of that is really we go into compatible solutions and services. That is the main promise, interoperability basically between products, but also between services. We strongly focus on the needs of operators of factories, plants and warehouses. We employ existing standards. We are able to address small, medium and large enterprises. And we reduce the lock-in by that the customer is generating, because we think it is good for the market to have a bit of interdependency and independency on the side of the customer. So the philosophy behind that is that we want to persuade by great and fantastic products, but we do not want to have a deep lock-in by some kind of technology measure or stuff like that. And of course, we are starting now about first solutions, and being now a bit more than 2 years in the market, we also have the first guidelines available. So now maybe I'm talking a bit more about the actual challenge, and this is now an example from the discrete industry, but we could make the same example from the process industry. Just a bit of different names of the players there maybe, but in the end, it's really quite similar. So there's a lot of players out there in this market, and you have the players who are doing systems, machines, controls, and so on. You have the IoT platforms on the right side. You have shop floor systems. You have IT software and some kind of auxiliary services behind. And if all of that should work together in a kind of point-to-point mode, then you have something like this here. You have a complete mess of activities and something which is not manageable in a security aspect, for example, but also not in a complexity aspect. This kind of complexity is a nightmare for any kind of IT department and also OT department. And so we need to come up with a better solution. And now in a kind of vertical picture, this is also illustrating basically the same challenge. So in a discrete manufacturing, you might have a robot, you might have a dosing system, a CNC machine, a laser cutting machine, and so on. And all of these manufacturers, typically they have their kind of OEM cloud solution. So they have a Endress & Hauser cloud solution, they have an IFM's cloud solution, and so on and so on and so on. And this creates a lot of complexity for the customer. Which again is not manageable from our perspective. Also, if you think that here all of these clouds could communicate together on a cloud-to-cloud basis, then also there is a big challenge to that, because actually these arrows here are too little. It's a kind of permutation of all these available clouds. So if every cloud wants to communicate with every other cloud, that's a big problem, because there's no common standard for a kind of cloud-to-cloud communication. Then you have these kind of integration layers, like platforms like Zapier maybe, but all of that creates a lot of complexity. And from a security point of view, you're really creating a lot of potential security loopholes. And so also we think that this is not the option that can go forward in the Industry 4.0 space. So basically on a high level, this is our answer to this challenge, that we think this kind of architecture needs to have a few layers in there, and that these layers really coordinate the communication that you have between the field level and between the cloud level. And that cloud level in the open industry architecture can also be a private cloud, it can be a public cloud, it can be different cloud deployment scenarios. So this is really the basic idea from the architecture point of view that we push forward to make things easier and more secure. So in terms of the approach that we are using a use case driven approach. So that means that we are starting with a customer use case. We think what is the target that the customer wants to achieve. And then we think about a solution to that. And that's maybe the difference also to a kind of traditional standards body. Here we are really very practical, very customer orientated and very implementation focused. And so we come up with a kind of master or architecture, which is on a high level looking a bit like this. There's more details to that available, but that is not scope of today's meeting. But basically, a typical scenario is that you have physical components on a shop floor. Now it happened again, every time I move my mouse. We have physical components on a shop floor at the very bottom of the slide. Then we have the open edge connectivity, which is basically creating a kind of abstraction layer between the physical things and the IT or OT world in that respect. And then we go into a scenario where we have the open edge computing, where we are able to provide applications, end-to-end applications for these kind of customers. And then we have more layers on top of that, which is an open operator cloud platform, where also we have a scenario where we can run applications and where the customer can run different applications for their different components in one kind of infrastructure environment. And then on top of that, we have a kind of common cloud central. And here, this is where we have master data available and kind of central asset repository. So that is really the scope of the Alliance in terms of what we produce and the concrete outcome. And that is also where all our specifications are focused on. So then, if you look at a concrete problem and a showcase of an end-to-end use case, then maybe this is a typical kind of life cycle that we have in this environment. So, of course, on the one hand, it is we need to maintain equipment master data, and that is one of the core and maybe foundations of every kind of IoT project, that we need to have the data in place, that we need to know what kind of equipment is available where, and that we have for this equipment already the right documentation available, that we don't need to store it in some kind of physical folder or cabinet, but we have it available right in the system, and we are sure and certain that we also have the correct, up-to-date and complete documentation available. And that quite often is not the case. So Matthias, what about the second point?
Yeah, interesting point, especially about master data. So for a couple of years, I worked with an SAP partner, and if I remember correctly, master data management was also a pain point in itself. It was not about not always about the question, what, is it the right master data, but it's also often the question that it's a huge amount of master data. And I recently met one of our customers who said, with every IoT solution I buy also 5 new problems, and 3 of them are related to master data management. So all your sensors and all your equipments and all your condition monitoring stuff need to be managed in our systems, and therefore we have to sometimes we double or even more our master data, and this aspect you mentioned right before is really key, to minimize the efforts as well around master data. Yeah, based on this master data, and also based on the core principles of this master data aspect, like the identification, for instance, but also the possibility to find the assets that are in place. It's important to onboard these things, to find these things, discover these things in the in the device topology and in the infrastructure, to align these things, give them an ID, an identification property, and then refer to it in this central repository, get more information about these things, and in a structured way, and then with a standardized language or with standardized semantics that are common, so that the different asset management systems can work with it. So the AIN is just one example for such an collaborative asset management system, but this also counts for MES systems, but also for SAP ERP systems, or for any ERP system in the world. That this kind of connection between the reality and the data and metadata that is in the system needs to be created, and this is can be a complex task, but it shall not be a complex task, and we are really working on automating these mechanisms, and therefore this is a really important Kickstarter argument in this context of this complete life cycle of such a solution. So and then the security aspect is also relevant as well, right, Hans? So what about this data share and secure aspect from your point of view? Yeah,
I mean, that is exactly one of the, on the one hand, one of the key promises of IoT and Industry 4.0, that the expert for certain equipment can take care of the equipment and can give very customized recommendations. But on the other hand, the customer and the operator of a plant is considering this information as proprietary. And so they don't want to share that with the whole world, but they want to share it on a punctual level, just with their operator and just with their OEM provider. And so this is a really important part, that also here we give the full sovereignty over the data towards the plant operators or the production sites, and that they have the full trust and the full security that their data is not being spread somewhere where they don't want to have that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, this directly leads to the next point. So when the things are then already in place and the data exchange is secured properly, then we have the next challenge and the next aspect comes into play. So again, another example from another customer. He reported that he recently had a welding cell, invested in a welding cell, and this welding cell is really like every component of it, like the robot that does the handling of the things, the transportation system, the connection to the intralogistics system, the condition monitoring of the tools that are applied on the robot arm, and so on and so forth. Every vendor of these things that they create their own edge connectivity solutions, connected mostly to their own cloud platforms. They have their own APIs, and they also have their own visualizations and interactive parts to visualize the data to get the insights to the operating state of these assets. And he literally told me that he has now reserved 1.5 meters of DIN rail in the cabin to just have enough space for all the edge devices and so on. And the answer of the Open Industry 4.0 Alliance would be pick and choose the right edge device, and then apply the interoperable edge components, mainly provided in containerized format, and apply all of them to a single edge that represents that welding cell, and then do the edge computing there, and the communication and the inter-service communications between all the different services on that single edge is all based on the common language that we create, And this also enables maybe other specialists and partners and members of the Alliance to create overarching visualizations and dashboards that deliver what the thing that the customer really needs, namely a complete and holistic overview about the welding cell, and not only about the robot, not only about the condition monitoring system of the mechanics, or not only about all the different topics. So bring all these things together and create the view that the customer needs. That's especially, and this absolutely start at the edge. And this is also an important aspect here in that step. Yeah.
Yeah, then in the next step here, the operator can really benefit from the expertise of all these different manufacturers which are part of the Alliance, because they bring together their combined knowledge, and everyone is bringing in what they do best. And so here in that scenario, if you have these kind of harmonized edge infrastructure, then it becomes easy to deploy specific manufacturer applications also on this edge environment. And I think here you might have, as an example, you might have time-critical calculations, for example, cycle time optimization, which is really a real-time or close to real-time application. And that is something which is very good on an edge device where you don't have long latency and very short reaction cycles.
Yeah, and then actually as the next step, we are now generating insights and really interesting information in that scenario that comes directly from the machine, and or from such a welding cell, for instance, on another possible scenario. Yeah, based on that, we now can deliver these high value insights, this really interesting information that actually comes from such assets or complex setups of assets, and bring them together on for instance, on an overarching, maybe also cross-site, cross-factory cloud platform, and provide centralized dashboards, or for single plants, for single lines, but also cross-plant KPIs like overall equipment effectiveness and so forth, and provide that information. And yeah, this step is also then much easier now, because we have now these single points of truth where we can refer to and deliver then the data to the next architectural level, where we can then provide the valuable insights to make the production better and be more successful, have less cost, and have much earlier perspective on what is going on and how things develop in the plant. So that's basically now we close the loops to some extent, and based on that you can derive the next needs and start over again to some extent, and extend and expand this approach to different use cases, or maybe to more sophisticated business challenges as well. Yeah. So and directly from this leads us based on this example to the benefits. So one may ask, maybe in this, maybe when you look at the Alliance and you see the Alliance, how it works and what is there, and that it's the kind of a membership, and this is kind of an organization you can take part in. And one may ask that, what is in for my company when I join this Alliance? What do I have to contribute, and what do I have to pay for? But and what do I get out of this Alliance? But I think you should first go a step backwards and get a bit of it, and look at it from a distance, and bring the customer into the perspective. That's also really an important aspect, and this is really something that I personally really like when I work with the Open Industry 4.0 Alliance. So because we have this customer-centristic view on what we are working on, we to some extent generate the benefits for, in my case, for IFM more indirectly, because we with getting a really good view on what is going on at the customer side. What are the challenges? What is the need? What is the pain? We to some extent inherently make our own products better, and we also bring them in a much broader context, as Hans already stated. So, and this comprises a huge number of benefits that we take into account when we think about our customers in this context here. So Hans already mentioned some of these points. So we really work together, and we evaluate, and we do lots of research on existing standards. We try to understand them. Sometimes it's really complicated. Sometimes you see some standards have documentation with 500 pages, and it's sometimes really hard to understand what is the relevance of the standard for my business. And what we are doing in the Alliance is to evaluate this this body of standards together, and ask each other, okay, how do you understand this standard? What do you think, for which purpose, for which problem is that standard made for? Is it relevant for a particular use case? Is it relevant for creating new interoperability and so on? And this after this evaluation, we all get a really good feeling for the relevance of particular standards, and this makes it much easier to adopt it to those standards for our own products. And a really nice side effect of this is that based on this common understanding, we also observe that many members base their own solutions and products and services on common standards, and the same standards, which makes it automatically the solutions much more interoperable. And this is a really interesting thing to observe, and really a huge benefit, not directly for us as a member, but especially then on site at the customer side. And this comprises the semantic modeling, how things are described, how the behaviors of things are described. And this comprises the security. We take the security really seriously, and it's not by accident that the security is in the center of this slide here. And and having these common picture and bringing these things we already heard today into application. This we also observe that this reduces the time to value significantly in our early adoption projects we make. So because we do not have to clarify the many questions in the context of the customer project, because we already clarified it from a technical point of view, or from a standard point of view, or from a model point of view, or from a semantic point of view before in the Alliance, and then come with a really convincing answer directly to the customer in those cases where some members gather together to decide to create a common cross-vendor offerings. So, and this is really an important aspect that drives also the work back again of the Alliance. And in the end, Hans already mentioned it. We all committed ourselves to handle the customer data with respect. So I do not know a single company and a single member that has kind of a hidden agenda that is based on gathering data about the customer's production and machine behavior to create a kind of a secret money machine based on that data without that the customer knows that, and without our customers deciding to share that data. So we really handle this with care, and we are fully transparent on that. And this is really something that that's maybe today getting more and more important. And this also drives the trust into the alliance as well. Yeah, so coming to the next slide, we can differentiate also the values and the benefits into two different directions. So one currently and mainly focused direction is the benefits for the operators of machines, of assets, of components that but also of the production facilities overall. So so we improve, for instance, the availability of the assets, the performance, the output, the effectiveness overall, yeah, we also embrace the existing brownfield devices that are already in place. So it's a few days ago I read about that there are maybe about more than 80% of the assets that are currently in production are really not completely Industry 4.0 and digitalization ready. So the life cycle of the machines and assets in the field is longer than we maybe knows this from IT infrastructures, for instance, and we have to take this into account, and we really embrace these brownfield devices in our approaches. And what's also important for our customers, we observed, and when we listen to them, is that that there's to some extent some hesitation in investing in Industry 4.0 solutions, because maybe in the current state of the hype, there's a certain probability that you may invest into the wrong things, and that maybe are not interoperable in future anymore, and that are not based on the right standards that are relevant tomorrow and the day after. So therefore, this whole thing, combined with the data custodianship we have in our approach, and the openness and the vendor lock-in prevention mechanism, so to speak, this really creates lots of trust into the solutions and offerings and products of the OI4 members. And this is something that mitigates a bit of that hesitation. And this is it's a really important aspect. On the other side, we also have in the focus the business of the OEMs and manufacturers of assets and machines, and based on our approach, we see a large benefit that it's much easier now, based on this these common approaches we are developing, that it's much easier to create new business models and new services and new businesses in general. And also this leads to this reduced friction we provide with our approaches, also leads to fast innovation and competitive advantage in the end for those vendors of those machines. Yeah, to go further with this presentation, you may see that some things are to some extent redundant, because the central approach of the alliance and the value we create are to some extent one thing, and this is something that's really, from my point of view, and I'm working in multiple organizations currently, is something that's really unique for the Open Industry 4.0 Alliance, is that the things we try to foster and leverage, and the whole approach of the alliance are one thing. So this is, so to speak, the approach is the benefit in itself, and this is really that really makes fun as well. So to see how this really works. So this is also represented here in this slide. With respect of our time frame we have, so I'll just skip over that and we move forward. So and then based on this customer centristic view, there's also lots of value for the members as well. So it's not only indirect, as I already explained, via this customer centricity, but it's also a direct value for the members, of course. So first of all, it's really a nice experience to work with the I4 Alliance, because we have this tight collaboration with each other, but also with our customers, and we to bring these learnings we have in the market together, and improve our own products in terms of service efficiency and the design of our products as well. So, and this fosters this is really that our solutions are future-proof and more sustainable when it comes to adopting standards based on the open architecture we have, and this directly leads into much more interoperability. So it's now much easier to have a plug-and-play experience for particular use cases. For instance, we already showed with our automatic onboarding processes we already implemented. And this, from this you can directly derive the differentiations for your offering, for what you offer to your market, and for this overarching market of Industry 4.0, because you're now not alone anymore. You're part of a large community, and you can refer to the solutions of others and say, okay, this works together with this, and this is something you can pick from that member, and then you have, it's much easier to create holistic solutions based on the offerings of the different members. So that's really a nice experience to see how this grows. And and in the end, this is there's much benefit for your customers and for you as a member as well. How we work. Just to give you a short overview. So we have at a glance, I already mentioned it. So we are all together in the same market, and we already have our solutions and products, like our components here at IFS, also our software solutions that we have. It's basically the same with Endress and Hauser. It's and with all the different and other different members, and and we gather lots of experience in the market with our products, and with we bring these different examples and use cases based on our existing portfolio together, and then we derive from that a common understanding how our existing elements of our portfolio work together at the customer side, and while making this more interoperable, we evaluate and use existing standards. We do not create in the Alliance our own standard. We really do the research, evaluate the existing standards, and then work on technical alignment, but also on strategic alignment to bring all these different solutions together and make them work and make them interoperable. And this leads then into the manifestation of guidelines, best practices, and we really fix these things and write them down, and then evaluate those again, and then bring the results again in common projects to our customers. And then this loop, so to speak, is closed. So this is actually the core principle of our work. So of course we have a structure. So we are basically structured in 3 main work groups or work streams. So we have, of course, the customer and use case centric work of the industry focused work groups. So in the first phase of the founding of the Alliance, this was something that was divided in different industries like process industry, food and beverage, oil and gas, intralogistics, as already mentioned. And we are now switching gears a bit here in that context, and we are now more implementation driven. So there's currently a new approach evolving for this next phase after the founding, after we created a really deep understanding about the specifics of the different industries. We now shifting towards a more implementation centristic approach here. This is mainly around these early adoption projects, really bring things into the context of the customers, bring things into application, and then learn from that, and derive requirements that are handled by the technical committee, then in the different sub-work groups there, and then we have a third working group that is that helps us to push the good news into the market, do the promotion of the results, show what we're doing. Of course, only the public things, not everything that members do together with customers, but especially the things that are where our members and the customers of our members agree on that can be made public. But it's also about general events, presenting the core principles of the Alliance, do all the communications, make some noise in social media, do the public relations, and promote the early adoption of the principles. And that's the core structure. If you want to get more information, please contact us. We can make an appointment with the different leads. So, for instance, Hans-Jürgen Hilscher, as the head of the tech committee, can provide much more information. Also, Simon Stark from Multivac, who created this next phase of this industry-focused work, can provide you much more information about that. And in terms of the time that is running out for this presentation, I would suggest to maybe skip the detailed work of the tech committee work, and this is definitely interesting, but I really would recommend to if you have further questions, contact us. We can show you the work of the technical committee in more detail, also with the help of the head of this committee and the team that is around that work stream. And this would lead, I guess, into a much too long presentation here. And so maybe one interesting thing we can show to you, maybe we can jump to slide 40 with the hackathons. That is really important to mention here. So this is something we we experienced this as a really, really good way to work together in the technical work stream. This all started with the first hackathon with 14 participants, and the last third hackathon we had more than 30 participants from 80 companies, and as you see on the pictures, that was really something that was really nice to see, and it was lots of fun. To come together, group in smaller groups, work on particular problems, provide solutions for particular problems, learn from it, write it down in the guidelines, and in really condensed way, 2 days, and we created lots of success stories there, and this also shows the spirit of the Alliance, and this is quite similar in all the different other work groups as well. So to sum up and to summarize and to come to an end of this presentation, I really want to encourage you to get in touch with us, go deeper into discussing and see how we are working, and see the core principles, how we work. Maybe you can just skip the slides and come to an end. So if you're interested, register yourself on our website, or just contact us directly, as we are here. Contact the service bureau with Leona and Greta and all the colleagues we have there, and get in touch with us, and get access to the benefits for members, and more or less create benefits for your customers, and gain your performance in that market, together with all the other members. That's something we really want to encourage you, and go to the website, register, get more documents, and be a first mover and co-creator. That's my closing statement here on this point. So and for further information for the different work groups, just contact us, and we can make additional appointments and presentations, so that you can have a much better understanding about the details of our work structure. So thank you for your attention and your patience, now we're coming to the next phase of the meeting, right? Leona, do you want to say something about what we are doing next in this meeting, or?
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
so
sure. Thank you.
A huge thank you to you, Hans and Matthias, for the really interesting presentation. We have also planned a short discussion round for this meeting, as we have 3 further members in the call from MPDV, uReason, and Forcam. So yes, I can see Christina already from MPDV. And the questions will be raised by Matthias and Hans, so that you get an impression of what other members are saying about the Alliance.
Yeah, maybe I just start right away with Christina Lohmann from MPDV. So nice to have you here. So and good to have you as a member in the Alliance. And with that, I come to my first question that I have to you. So what was your motivation to become a member? So why did you join? That would really be interesting for me, and maybe for the other members as well.
Yes, I think this. So we, the MPDV, at first we support companies on their way to smart factories.
Mm-hmm.
And we are of the opinion that a single IT system no longer covers all requirements in depth in many manufacturing operations today, and therefore different IT solutions are usually found in production. It's all a matter of customer centricity, and in order to provide the customer with end-to-end transparency and a uniform understanding of the data, despite different systems, the systems must be open and speak the same language or use the same standard in order to become interoperable. And yeah, this is exactly what we stand for. And we think the OI4 and the MPDV are looking in the same direction in order to move companies forward. And yeah, for this reason, we have joined the OI4 and still join.
Yeah, I can imagine. So when you're facing the customer's infrastructure and you have to connect to all the different assets and so on, get the right information out of it. Yeah, I can really imagine that interoperability is a key point, I guess.
Absolutely. Yes, right.
To create that transparency. Yeah. So yeah, maybe this also leads to my next question directly. So what do you expect as a member for as your benefit? So because you have to contribute now something, that's something also really important to mention. So this is yeah, the Alliance is really an organization that is has a huge number of calls to action, so to speak, and but yeah, there's also some kind of expectation. So what do you expect? Which benefits do you expect when you joined? So
I can say what we expect, or I think we already have.
Okay.
I think there are several points. So on the one hand, there is, of course, the network effect. Through our membership in the OI4, we are in contact with like-minded companies and can therefore work better on solutions for our customers. And on the other hand, the marketing aspect is also a great benefit for us. So we like to advertise our OI4 membership in our conversations with customers and the interested parties. Yeah, and I think in this way, we show commitment to our customers and also demonstrate our openness. And I think that's very important.
Yeah, that's nice to hear that you really also mention that this is that when you talk to your customers or your prospects that this is important for an important key aspect for your offering, right? That's yeah, that's good news, and it's also nice to hear that you already have these benefits here. Then that's a really good news. Yeah, we also have Dr. Andrea Rösinger here in our call as well, and she was also she also wants to say something about her motivation about yeah, being a member of the Alliance. So yeah, maybe the same question to you. So what is your motivation? What are the benefits for you for being a member? And maybe you say also a few words about FORCAM and yeah, what is your motivation and your benefit? Oh, you're still muted.
Okay, now you hear me.
Yeah.
Yes, perfect. Okay, FORCAM has a IoT solution, a platform, but also a strong connectivity layer, machine connectivity layer, where we connect all brownfield machines. So with this component, we also have, we took the reference architecture of the Open Industry for Zero Alliance, and we were designing and building a component on the SAP Business Technology platform. And from here, we deploy into the Azure Force Stack. So I coming from software development, so I have to say, as I'm the responsible for the development part, I was happy that I find a clear software architecture, connectivity, cloud edge computing, which will become very important in the future, and then the cloud operator and the center. And this gives us a very big opportunity, I believe, to compose solutions for customers with different software. This will be the future. We have to learn together to know the pains of the customer. Then we need a hyperscaler platform and or the SAP Business Technology Platform. And then we can evolve our open manufacturing compositions of, but also with this, I'm hoping strongly, we in Europe, we manage the manufacturing ecosystem. So this must be our passion altogether to place us between the hyperscaler in China and in USA. So this I found with you, and somebody said at the beginning, we are in competition, but we can learn to cooperate. I believe the pandemic was helping us here. So I'm really looking forward in what is coming.
Yeah, so yeah, nice to hear. You said you're coming from the software development world, so to speak.
Yeah.
So what does that mean for your engagement? So in which work group are you working currently, and what are you also beyond that planning to contribute to the Alliance? So can you say a few words about that as well?
Yeah, so well, I come from software development, but Forcam, there are a lot of engineers. So I have had the challenge to learn the different OT-IT integration. And so the challenge we have is that engineers and software engineers, they have to understand each other. We have a different wording. We think a little bit different. So I learned then really connectivity coming from the signal. The origin from for Industry 4.0 are the data of the shop floor. And then with this, there is nothing. So we can do data-driven manufacturing. As I was building ERP before, this is quite simple for me because financials is nothing else as the picture of the reality. And now with the digital twin, we are creating the big picture of the reality in the shop floor. But manufacturing is quite complex, like you have shown, it's a network. And we are also talking about a resilient supply chain. So there are quite a lot of challenging topics where we need standardization, semantics in all levels. But important, I think, because I am in other communities where people discuss Industry 4.0, we discussed since 10 years. What I hope from the Open Industry 4.0 Alliance is the transformation in use cases. I don't believe we learn if we don't transform iteratively and work in an agile approach. So I hope that we find use cases together, we discuss the use cases, and this I also see in the Alliance here.
Yeah, this is good news. So yeah, good to have you in the Alliance, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to meet you one day again after this pandemic. So after a long period of online meetings, I guess it's good news that times are getting better now, and then we can meet again physically, and yeah, this again will I'm pretty sure will boost and foster the collaboration even more. So yeah, looking forward to meet you all then. So
thank you.
Yeah, with this I hand over to Hans-Jürgen or to Hans Huber. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Then I would like to present to you another member of the Alliance, the company Eureason, represented today by Jules Otmans. And Eureason is based in the Netherlands and the UK and focusing on artificial intelligence solutions. So Jules, maybe you can say 2 or 3 words about your company and why you became a member.
Yeah, so Eureason is active in the field of real-time condition monitoring and predictive maintenance with software. And one of actually the main reason for joining the OI4 community was that we saw a community that was focused on implementing the various standards that are out there for process automation, security, digital security, and also thinking about the different use cases that asset owners, OEMs, our customers are confronted with. And the main reason for joining the OI4 community is that we saw before we joined that this community was making waves, and now we see after a year and a half of contributing as an active member and being part of technical workshops, etc. We see that it's also working. So the barriers to integrate device data from the lower levels in the automation pyramid to let's say a notification in the maintenance management system over an edge, over on-premise compute, or via a second channel like the NOAA concept is something that the Alliance is actually actively working on and realizing that. So it's about implementing it in an ecosystem where all parties are actually working towards making the integration barriers and the integration headaches for asset owners and OEMs a lot lower and easier.
Okay, thank you. And from your experience when talking to customers or your peer group, how is the Open Industry Alliance perceived in the market?
Actually, quite well. So we communicate about OI4 at conferences that are visited, for example, by maintenance professionals that are, let's say, working on optimizing processes, reducing asset risks, etc. And all of them are new to it when we first introduced it, but they're quite, I would say, interested and also engaged in learning more about what the OI4 community is doing. So the work that we're doing in the OI4 community, but also the visibility of the work that we're doing in the OI4 community, we share with our customers. We share it at conferences, in online meetings because of the pandemic. But we're also building a demonstrator where asset owners and OEMs can see the work of the OI4 community in real life on a process plant. Most of our customers are in the process industry, continuous, semi-continuous, and batch. And yeah, I mean, there's a certain level of acceptance that is required by those customers. They need to first see it before they believe it. So having demonstrators available for end customers as well, showing asset onboarding, showing unplugging and plugging in new assets into the total automation layer of a part of a plant, and then communicating, having that communicate automatically upwards to edge, automatically upward into the cloud, is quite powerful, and without having to spend hours or days or even weeks in integrating this all.
All right, thank you. You were talking about the results of the Alliance, which you are demonstrating. If now people here in this webinar are interested in seeing some of the results, where would you recommend them to go? Yeah, so we are working on a demonstrator with a number of the OI4 Alliance members, with Pepperell and Fuchs, with Wago, with Samsung, and other parties involved as well, and a university and a school. And this demonstrator is located in the town of Dordrecht in the Netherlands. From the Ruhr area, it's approximately 220 kilometers drive. And it looks like we're going to open up again for normal visits, but also for business. So that demonstrator is, you can physically go there. But next to that, we also have remote connections into the demonstrator. It's not the same thing as hearing the pump, seeing the pump, etc., and seeing the Anderson-Hauser Coriolis mass flow meter, etc., and touching, being able to touch everything. But it's still a relatively similar experience, I would say. All right, excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. We have exactly 4 minutes left now for questions. There are also questions in the chat, in the Q&A. So does anyone of you, Hans, Matthias, or any other speaker, want to choose a question and answer it?
Yeah, I mean, maybe the first question that we have in the chat, how do you manage BIPs projects where you have multiple suppliers who offer the same product solutions? Basically, there are rules in the Alliance. So we need to make, in this case, we need to make it open. and we need to give the organizations, the members, the possibility to participate in this project. And even if it's a competing offer, I mean, then that is then a thing which is succeeding the alliance, that is not part of the alliance as such, because I said we are pre-competition. And so if we see it goes into a competitive project, then those organizations need to compete like they would compete in another project.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. So this question has been from Matthew Mayer. I hope that answers your question. So you have also the chance to raise your hand now and raise a question directly in this meeting. Otherwise, there is one further question in the Q&A. Is there any volunteer who would like to answer this one?
Yeah, I can take this one. So Christopher Ehrlich asked, it was mentioned that first products following the OL4 best practices are coming to the market now. What are examples of such products or examples of the scope they are covering? So yeah, for that we started to create or we already created and have this marketplace directory, so to speak. So it's not a shop, because the Open Industry 4.0 Alliance does not offer anything in terms of products and services and has no own business. So it's all the business of the members. But we provide a kind of yellow pages or directory where the members can list their offerings. And yeah, we can later on help you with getting access to it and how it works. Yeah, these are the single offerings and single products. For more fully integrated examples where all the interoperability aspects come into play, I would recommend to contact us so that we can link you and provide a connection to the early adoption projects we have. So I guess it's a much better place there to get an impression where the real benefits are in terms of cross-vendor interoperability, and this is also a good way to see how these products and offerings work together. So that's something I would recommend in that case. Yeah.
Matthias, if I may add something to that, you can simply go to the website of the Open Industry 4.0 Alliance, and in the top layer you will find a column called Marketplace Directory. That's where you exactly find those products. Actually, they were for internal use till last week. So we just changed it in the last couple of days, actually for this meeting. But if you are interested in the product specifically, there are services, but there are also products, hardware and software products. You can find them on the website under Marketplace Directory.
Perfect. So we made it to this appointment. Perfect. Yeah. Great.
Okay. Christoph Ehrlich, I see you in the call. I hope your question was answered with this. You have the rights to speak. So if you want to, you can confirm that it has answered your question.
Yes, sure. Thank you very much. I just browsed to the website to find the directory and we'll have a closer look at it. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thank you very much. So the time is running out now. It's 4:30. And if you have any further questions and or after the meetings you're having a look at the information material and questions are coming up, or if you want to have another or a separate introduction call, please let us know. Just send an email to info@openindustry4.com. And so for now, I really would like to thank you, especially to all the speakers and to the participants as well, for joining this call and making it a good one. So thank you very much and have a great day. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.